Hello, and welcome to this edition of the Law Firm Blueprint. I'm one of your hosts, Jay Ruane, and with me, as always, is my man, Seth Price, in his home base today. Seth, how's your week going?
It's going well, and we are, live to tape here in the afternoon. Noticed Jay slightly less energetic than when we do our morning ones.
Oh, this has been just a long day. I've done it's been a long day.
So lots of good here. Very often I'm now at the growing stage phase of law firm where you're trying to add in new elements. We gave away sweatshirts to new clients with our co-brand with the Commanders, and ended up getting some dissatisfied clients because they weren't Commanders fans, which so now we're like, okay, do we do a survey before somebody when somebody signs on as a client? Do we?
Does it crush you as a Giants fan that you're now supporting the Commanders?
But we're not going anywhere for the next 3 years, so what are we going to do, right? What's interesting though is we talk a lot about getting information up front about clients, and it's one of these things that I'm on a tear for, which is we talk about it, but how much do you get and how well do you use it? Do you know somebody's birthday? Obviously, you get that when you sign up, but kids, other areas of interest. What is it? So that when your people are speaking, they have something to fall back on that's not just the facts of the case. Because in PI, for example, where there's a lot of this, things go on for an extended period of time. In criminal that you deal with, nobody wants to be dealing with what they're dealing with. If you can somehow, have some sort of, I hate the term small talk, but something that's not just the facts of stuff that people don't want to be dealing with, not the worst thing in the world.
So one of the things that we do, actually, this dovetails. So we've got this AI agent that we've programmed to actually do biographical sketches of our clients. And so I went into a couple different tools and I said, I wanted, what are the questions I should ask if I'm going to create a biography of a client? And one of the ones that I hadn't thought of, but we added in was, do you own any pets? And that is important in a criminal context, because if someone's single and has a dog or a cat and they got to go in and do some time, they need to find somebody to care for that animal. So we want to know that. So we asked, do you have any pets? What are their names? Are you a fan of any local sports teams? That type of thing. And we ask it in an innocuous way because, not for nothing, I've had prosecutors who are diehard Red Sox fan, and I ain't going to tell them that my client is a Yankees fan. That type of thing.
Well, you're not going to tell them that, but the flip side is, if somebody is a Red Sox fan, that's not the worst thing in the world. That's not the worst thing in the world to have. I'm sure judges more leniently for somebody who went to their alma mater.
Absolutely. One of the things I used to do all the time when I was a young public defender, and I'll put this out there for anybody who's listening, I got to find it. I haven't used it in probably 10 or 15, probably more like 15, 20 years. I had a binder that I kept, and in the back of the binder in my jury selection area, I had the name, colors, the name of every local college, their colors, and their mascot. And so somebody would come in and they'd be like, oh, well, I went to Sacred Heart. And I was like, the red and white, gotta love those Pioneers. And I went to Scranton. I didn't go to Sacred Heart, but just having that ability to drop in. And I mean, when I was a college kid, we used to, come up with those, that was like a trivia question. Whoa. Who's the mascot? What's their colors? That type of thing. And it worked a lot in jury selection. And so, it's getting to know those little things that do make a difference.
Well, I preach this, and whether or not it's scaled with the firm, and I've had trouble, especially with some overseas people, sort of adopting this. But 215 area code. If you see that on caller ID, my first question is Pat's or Gino's, and they're like, no, D'Alejandro's. It's like it starts a conversation, right? If it's a 312, are you Cubs or White Sox? Everybody's got an opinion, or I don't like baseball. But there's going to be something, and I feel like as you can get some of that, both whether it's for intake or whether it's for jury selection, those things matter.
It does. Getting to know the people that you're dealing with does matter. In fact, we do that as part of our internal newsletter. I don't know. Does Price Benowitz or does BluShark have an internal newsletter that goes
Yeah.
out monthly just to your employees
Yeah.
about what's going on in the firm in the
And
business?
whether or not each of them has been consistent, I can't tell you. They have been started, they've been used. And so I think the Blue Shark one, we've moved more to Slack rather than an email newsletter. But there, it is something that's been there, and those are great highlights. And to a certain extent, started to try to merge the two when possible. When there's personal stuff, trying to incorporate that. In a perfect world, we'd have 17 different newsletters, but it's hard
Right.
enough getting one good one out.
Well, it's amazing. I mean, somebody today gave me a little pushback. I was doing a coaching call, and they were like, I have 300 clients in the last 2 years. I'm just a solo. Why should I do a newsletter? And I was like, well, that's 300 people that you've served well, and they're not thinking about you. But if you hit them with even just an email newsletter, not necessarily a print one, just an email newsletter, you're going to remain top of mind with them for the next couple of days. And so you should be doing this. You should be having proactive outreach to people.
Because the thing about criminal lawyers, look, I want to be your lawyer for life. It's true for most people, right? It's not like, hey, have you been arrested before? It's like, if you need anything, you need a will, I'll find you that. You're getting divorced, I got you. Like, the idea is, can you be that person? Because you only have 300. 300 is not that many. But at the same time, 300 people are going to have some legal need. And if you start to figure that out and build your referral network, God bless.
Yeah, I mean, and that's, I know you're in the digital marketing business, and I just think there's a lot of lawyers out there that are thinking they can just, swipe a credit card and get leads to give them a call. And you see it on all these social networks of, we can get you 10 guaranteed leads this month for X amount of dollars, that type of thing. I get them in my Facebook feed all the time. But I just wonder why everyone is just ignoring developing referrals I mean, I just think that
there are people out there that evangelize. If you just make random calls to your former clients, I'm sure it will. The question, like everything else, if you call, like, if you got time, more time than money, God bless it. I'm sure it's great staying in touch. We've tried scaling it outside of the practicing lawyers themselves. It's harder. It doesn't do as much. It's any touch that you can do. The check-in calls. I mean, I think that it's one of those things. The question is, what else could you do with that time? So I like the concept, but and like the internal newsletter, you may do it for a year. Are you going to continue it?
Well, I'm not doing it at all. Other people I've delegated to are making sure that it gets done. I mean, that's the thing. Like, there's only so many hours in the day that you can work, and so you need to be conscious about what you're spending your energy on. And I think that's something that all of us as law firm owners need to really think about.
And
is where are we spending our time? Because our time is our most precious commodity. I can make more money. I can't make more time.
Right. And so I see a lot of Gary Vee, a lot of Dan Martell talking about saying no to more things, being purposeful. And, I've been playing the LinkedIn game a bunch recently. It had some big hits, and it's amazing what works on LinkedIn and what doesn't. But a lot of friends of the show have been very active on LinkedIn.
But are you just preaching to the choir there? Are you
No. That's not the point. Who cares about that?
Well, I want to talk about LinkedIn.
No. I understand. I'll answer. So, it is not that you're preaching to the choir. In fact, I think very often the choir you're preaching to is non-monetizable. What it does, and I've now had 2 posts in the last couple months go over a couple 100,000 impressions. That's over 100,000 different people on each one seeing the post in some form or fashion. What I can tell you is, from a personal brand point of view, when I go to an event, people know who I am, and people who know who I am, I'm top of mind. I see you everywhere. And so I'm not saying that this is converting to, hey, I got a referral. A friend of the phone show, Tom Tona, told me, hey, he just closed a case, had a $60,000 check to himself, directly attributable to a LinkedIn cap. Great. That's awesome. But, that's just like if you made phone calls. If you took all the time making LinkedIn posts and you made phone calls to former clients, you'd probably get a good client out of that as well over time. What I could tell you is, at scale, I'm seeing from a thought leadership point of view, people out there seeing it at a cadence that I haven't seen before. So if Jay Ruane wants to be the criminal mastermind consultant for all criminal lawyers, yes, a lot of non-criminal lawyers will see you, but when you get that type of visibility, it's Jay Ruane. So when somebody's trying to say, you know what, I need some help with stuff, oh, and they can connect the dots, whether it's somebody needs a digital marketing agency with BluShark or whether they need a PI case or a criminal case or whatever, I can definitely see the cadence of referrals picking up. The only thing I can equate it to would be when you spend money on offline media, radio or TV. You don't know where it's coming from. It doesn't make any sense, but your calls are up. I kind of get that impression that we know a lot of people. Then there's a second tier that we sort of know and a third tier that doesn't know us at all. I think it just amplifies all of that. I'm less caring whether it's the choir or not.
Yeah, because, I tried the whole LinkedIn game for a while, and I was putting out content that I thought, in my world, it was what happens if you are a pharmaceutical sales rep and you get a DWI, right? Because that was content that I thought, hey, you know what? There's people on there. It's very specific. So then I stepped back. I was like, what if you have a professional license and you get arrested? General stuff. And then I was like, let me put out just some general stuff about how to manage your practice better. And I'm thinking to myself, who wants to hear from me? I mean, I
want to hear from you. Look, you now are an established thought leader in the space of running. You've read at scale. We talked about for a long period of time. Had a lot of people made a lot of mistakes, learned a lot of stuff.
I made more mistakes than I've made. Good choice.
You're coaching a lot of people. You see the good and bad coming in. So in that sense, look, I had Neil Patel on my digital marketing podcast the other day. In fact, we should rerun this here because I think it was really interesting. And one of the things that he brought up was the fact that his biggest hits, like he goes viral on nonsense about how to leverage your Instagram account. However, it was a very specific niche post that landed him Adobe as a client.
Okay.
But I think Jay Ruane comes from a different place. You intentionally, for those who don't know, Jay morphed away from big federal criminal cases to blue collar widgets like DUI specifically for the majority. No one case makes or breaks you. So at this point, your biggest thing is not like, can I get one DUI from this? Not that you don't want one DUI, but can you be top of mind for all the people that know you? A lot of people, we think a lot of ourselves, but not everybody. There's a guy in Connecticut. Who's that guy? The fact that it's always up there, that's the play. So for you, no whale is going to see this and come running. The question is, can you mix in substantive content that shows you to be a DUI expert with gravitas? The stuff that I have going super viral by LinkedIn standards is, was stuff about gaps on resumes and other things that have to do with culture and thought leadership at the firm.
But if that's the case, then, I mean, shit. Why don't I just film myself baking bread this weekend, edit into a 1-minute video, talk about, bread, and then that's like really weird on LinkedIn, and more people will be like, what the hell is this guy teaching us bread? This isn't Facebook or Instagram. That would be more newsworthy
if it worked. I don't think it's going to work.
Lawyer espousing about how to run a firm better.
No, because I think what it's going to come down to is when you take an opinion and you hold fast to it and somebody disagrees with it, that's what gets those view counts up. And so when you or rags to riches, I actually did a post the other day talking about like my frustration with I was the worst kid in my law school class and now I'm successful. I'm like, that's great. Good for you. But it's not the only path. And like when you are the worst kid in your law school class, it's going to close a lot of doors. And I'm not saying that, and I'm not saying that that's awful. I said, my sort of inside joke was there, may not be a mathematician, but I would guess that one half of the law school class is in the bottom half. Half of all law school graduates in the bottom half of their class. So it's not that the idea of celebrating it. Look, maybe that lights a fire because you have no other choices, that you have to go the entrepreneurial route. Great. It was good for you. But if you have options, to me, that's a positive. And the experiences you may gain from those build and help you to other directions and open doors. And so it is funny because there is a lot of I was the, overcoming adversity. It sells, and I think it does very well there. To me, I like the stuff where Jay Ruane has an opinion that he's not hiring people with experience because it's just not cost effective. I'm only hiring people right out of school. And then you have the people saying you're ageist and you're this and you're that. And it becomes like, if you can get that cadence to come out, it's really interesting. On the one about gaps on resumes, I was called a POS several times in the comments, and I was,
And that's just from your mom.
Exactly. No, mom likes the comment. She always likes that. She's an easy mark. But the thought is, I was saying, I want to know if somebody's independently wealthy. That was one of my throwaway lines, and people held on. What is your business? I'm like, look, if somebody doesn't need to be working, I'd like to know that. I also want to know why somebody has a gap on the resume. And other people, like, what if they had cancer and they don't want to tell you? Okay, the worst they could say is, I don't want to tell you, but I want to ask. It's been made my whole living. Like, you got to ask. If you don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I get it, but I'm wondering if LinkedIn is the post-COVID cocktail party for entrepreneurs who are out there just chatting with each other, but really not moving the needle anywhere. I mean, it's this. I see a lot of people seemingly being thought leaders in the legal entrepreneurial space, saying the same things. And I'm thinking to myself, dude, if you were doing it, I'd know about you. But all you're doing is quoting back platitudes that you heard from somebody else and spinning it a little. I don't know. I just feel like it's
right. And for those
giant
people,
waste of time.
but many of those people, I know some of them have some sort of, look, there are two categories. One are just like smaller lawyers that are trying to gain attention any which way they can
Right.
for cheap. And some of them have a widget within the legal space, coaching or otherwise, which it brings attention. Attention's hard, is difficult to get. It's expensive. Right now, given the number, like when I post, I'm amazed at how many people have read my entire post or multiple posts that I know well. I got a law school reunion coming up. I see people at cocktail parties. It's a conversation that, again, if you put stuff that you're proud of, that gets people. Now, with that, which is why, if we go back to the beginning of this conversation, with that comes 1,000 different random opportunities. And I've shared with you before, my code word with my partner, whenever I say that's interesting, that was code word for it's not going to make money. The question is, it's not a free lunch, because just like when you do those reach out calls, you may end up speaking to people that really aren't going to make you any money.
Right.
The same thing happens here, where you get offered things that aren't the things you should be focused on. And because you're trying to have these conversations, you're there, and you end up with all this additional stuff coming at you.
Right. Well, perfect example. You've offered, hey, I can get you a speaking engagement in front of this audience. And I'm thinking, it's a bunch of PI lawyers. Yeah, I can give them some ideas that work in my space. But is that the audience I should really be in front of?
No,
because
look,
they're not my people. And
okay.
and as I get older, I'm getting more and more into, I know my audience. I know who my people are. I talked to one guy today who's a practicing lawyer for 20 years. He says that last year was one of his better years, and he grossed $66,000. And
look, there are two things. You could be the king.
You do to help me. And I said, I gave him some ideas. I said, this is, these are some things you could think of. And
I think you're onto something. If you're going to make 2 trips a year, you're going to go to the 2 different, DUI colleges that are out there. They seem, you have one guy that they both seem to like, and you're going to, be able to you speak to your people, and they are the ones most likely to have a referral. That said, I've seen like a Mark O'Mara who shows up at the trial lawyer conference every year and has made himself, I mean, that wasn't just that, but made himself a national name amongst the FU players, that he is in that elite glitterati. So it really depends on how you play it. For you, if I'm Jay and I'm playing Moneyball with it, yeah, if you're going to go to the national DUI and criminal conferences, and you're going to go to the local bars where no other DUI lawyers show up. It came up in my memory the other day, Jay Ruane in front of a booth wearing, branded garb. Looks like you're selling the little sponges, and yet, it's not. Yeah.
Well, and that was at the Connecticut Bar Association's annual meeting, like 11 or 12 years ago. I got a booth and I got fidget spinners, and I met people, and they're like, "Well, why are you here?" I'm like, "To meet new lawyers, to meet people I haven't met before." And they're like, "Right, but what are you trying to sell us?" I was like, "Nothing. I just want you to tell me who you are and what
Well,
kind of
you
law."
were no, you're look. You were like, if you get a criminal or DUI case, I'm your guy. That's
Right,
why I'm here.
exactly.
I mean, that. I mean, look, you're there to meet people, but you weren't there. You weren't there networking. You were there with a freaking booth with, you know, Ruane, criminal DUI defense. I mean, you were
Yeah,
loud and proud, and God bless. I am surprised you haven't, because you are so good at it. I'm surprised you have not done more. We all think about having a person who could stand there. One of my mentors, Rick Harris, out of Vegas. He has a full-time media person. She does a TV show or a YouTube show for him that's amazing, and she's at every Vegas lawyer conference. And you
yeah.
know what? As this is old news. 10 years ago, he was doing 20 million a year in referral business. He has an entire warehouse packing gifts to send out. I mean, again, Connecticut is less sexy, but for you, maybe you're going to the New York and New
Yeah.
Jersey criminal conferences.
And
That's
I make Connecticut sexy.
yeah. But look, think about it. They don't cover Connecticut. How many times have I called you for a New York Metro referral? And I
Oh yeah.
and I and I should, I'm from New York. Like, once you're known for that, you get those calls.
Yeah, I'm really wondering, like, where I would be spending my attention and
Yeah,
my
to
time.
me, order of operations, national, New York. I like this better and better as I think about it. New York and New York and New Jersey, maybe whatever. What do you have? I don't.
Well,
New
David
England.
Bruno is a big time criminal lawyer in New Jersey, who I've gotten to know, and his firm, criminal defense firm, is sponsored the New Jersey Family Law outing, and like their annual seminar, because he was like, put me in front of a you know 200 or 300 family lawyers. I'm going to generate referrals out of this you know sob, and that was a genius idea by him,
I mean, they're
and
they're
he's done it for a
all.
number of years. I
I,
wish there was a family lawyer association here in Connecticut, but there really isn't one. Maybe I should create it.
or create the Facebook group.
Yeah, and then just use that as a springboard to get in front of them.
Well, you're in front of them.
Yeah,
Find a Connecticut family lawyer. You co-start it. You create. There's not a Connecticut Facebook group already. There is one. You put it out there, and there you are. You're the co-moderator of that.
boom. There you got it, folks. There's a golden nugget, and that's something that you could post on LinkedIn, Seth. In one of your posts, that'll go viral.
But
You
I
know,
wait till you do it first, so that I don't take the thrill away from you.
it's all good. It's all good. So, how's your summer looking? I mean, we're halfway through June. I'm pleased to say I actually did post on LinkedIn the other day that we are 2 weeks away from, or 1 week away from the end of the quarter, and I got all my rocks done. All my leadership team got their rocks done. My pods got their rocks done. So, like, we're doing a fantastic job. How is your summer looking? Have you guys even thought about your third quarter rocks? Or are you like,
So we're getting close to that. So personally, I got a couple weeks with Fisher and Umansky traveling through Portugal. On a business side, some good news. We got hit very hard of all our divisions. Got a lot of divisions of price benefits. Our federal white collar federal stuff just got hit hard with the new administration, with the
really?
Justice Department. Just landed a case that could be a third of our year. After the first third of the year being really bad. It's interesting that the issue that I'm dealing with on the PI side is that with growth, and we've grown really nicely, cash flow has become a much bigger problem. Before, when you're smaller, we just funded everything with our criminal money, and now it is much harder. We have Esquire, line of credit. I hate lines of credit, but at the same time, we need to start using it much smarter, making sure we've resisted case costs before. We're going to start moving towards that, starting to look at, we budgeted for marketing and all of a sudden the first quarter is a crappy quarter. First half of the year was okay, but if you're playing the PI game, the second half of the year is where your money comes in,
Right.
and it's just fascinating. So all of that there. Right now, just trying to execute. Like, there are times when you're looking at the next big thing, and there are times when if we could just execute on what we have under the hood right now, we'd be in great shape.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things. One of the problems, I think, for a lot of us as legal entrepreneurs is that, we are sort of like that quick start mentality, shiny object syndrome. But how many times have you evaluated to make sure that you're actually doing the stuff that you committed to do 2, 3, 5, 10 years ago that brought you business? And I mean, of course, I'm all in favor of, getting rid of the stuff that doesn't work anymore. But like, I mean, when I was the president of our state criminal defense lawyers association, and for a year or two before that, every time I saw a trial victory, I'd send him a bottle of wine or send him a little, hey, congratulations, that type of thing. I've gotten away from that. I need to get back into that. We got a new book that came out this week that I'm hoping that a trial handbook that I've been working on for a couple of years. I need to get that into the hands of people. And so it's my motto, my mantra for the second half of the year is everything old is new again. Like, let's go back to our playbook where we know stuff worked and we just sort of stepped away from it. Maybe we stepped away from it because of COVID. Maybe we stepped away from it because the person who was managing it left us. Maybe we stepped away from it because we had a bad experience, but we didn't think of it in terms of the bigger picture, and see what works and get back to doing that stuff. I mean, shit, I used to go to lunch at least once a week with a crew of lawyers that was always good for referrals. And I just kind of got lazy and stopped doing that because I don't want to leave my office. I got a really good restaurant nearby, and why drive 20 minutes for lunch?
Or be realistic. It's going to be once a month.
Right.
And you're going to make 2 calls a day. You're not going to try to do 20 a day. It's
Right.
there's lots systems. If we go back to the J, if you have a system in place, it works. At a heart to heart, we've mentioned before, but a friend of the show, Tom Tona, he was, and I think he posted about this on LinkedIn. We're sitting there and he's asking me about like this, needs a coach for this or that. I'm like, dude, the stuff's inside your freaking noggin. You knew, like, he had some real issues within his firm. He's been very public about. Go fix those freaking issues.
Right.
Like, looking for another nugget that's going to make you money, like to go for lunch with these people on this. That's not, he has issues right under his roof. And if he fixes those, he's going to be really, really happy. And if he doesn't, those nuggets aren't going to make a difference.
Well, I think the thing is that we chase the fun new stuff because we don't want to deal with the shit stuff that we know exists. And so we're always like, oh, the next thing is going to solve everything magically. And you know what solves it magically? Time, attention, and decision making. And maybe that doesn't have to be you. Maybe the decision is I'm bringing somebody in who's going to manage these issues for me.
Right.
Rather than going to another mastermind.
But with the knowledge, you better invest in somebody and know, like, how many people have you known that brought in X to run a show and it's just a meltdown? I mean, employees in general are a risk. You bring somebody to make decisions, that's something that's earned over a long period of time. Relinquish that. It needs to be relinquished at some point. That's awesome. And I'm now in my 3rd year with our director of ops, and I'm getting there, and I'm still not great. And every once in a while I sort of question. She's like, she looks at me, and I'm like, okay, it's yours. Go do it.
So let me tell you how I approach this, and who knows, maybe one of our listeners has another approach for this. But when we started our level 10 meetings, leadership meetings, whatever you want to call it, right? I said to my team, listen, you're going to have me to make 10 decisions this week, right? 10 decisions. Come to me, and maybe you don't have all 10 this week, but the max decisions I'm going to make for you guys is 10. And then 2 years later, we're now down to, I will make 8 decisions. You will have to tell me the other 2, the decisions and why you made it. And I'll give some input, but I trust you to make those decisions. And the goal is, at the end of my 8 more years, that I'm not going to be making any decisions. And they get to now have to decide which are questions that Jay should be the one answering, or we can just answer on ourselves. And it's I'm training my people to take work off my plate because, quite frankly, they know what they're doing. They know what the right decision is. They're just shy and not wanting to make that decision because they don't want to deal with the consequences. And I've told them, look, the consequences are going to hit all of us if you make the right decision or the wrong decision. So I'm okay with you guys making decisions. I trust you to act in the best interest of the firm. And they make decisions, and I may disagree with them, but if they can logically tell me why they made it, makes perfect sense. That's the route we go. And so as of July 1, I'm down to they can only ask me for 7 decisions. The other 3, they got to make on their own. And I love it.
And look, and I gotta say, that's generally my mantra is always if a mistake is made and somebody thought about it and chose wrong, I don't like it, but I get it.
I just don't like people who just make a decision and they put no thought into it.
Or didn't make a decision. It weighed itself. Like that's the bigger issue, right? If they're, if somebody says, hey, I did it for this reason, sure. It didn't work out right. It wasn't right. You didn't, build and grow. So it is fascinating. And, with each of these things, it's exciting. And then as you get those people, they're more and more valuable to you. Now you have the issue, especially some of our smaller firms. Now you got to pay more because you can't lose those people because you've invested so much in them.
Right.
It's an interesting dynamic. Don't train them; they may stay. Train them; they may. You need to butch up the phrase, but the idea is if you don't put that effort into elevating people, you'll never even have the chance to get there.
So last topic I want to talk to. This will be really brief, but I just thought I'd bring it up. I had somebody resign today, and this is interesting to me. Remote worker based in Iowa. Really good teammate and that type of thing. And the reason for the resignation has nothing to do with us. But they said, I got to resign. I'm an introvert by nature. And I haven't left my house for more than 15 minutes in the last 6 months. I don't talk to anybody. I'm all alone. And it's basically me and my 2 cats. And I go to the supermarket and come home. I need an office to go to bounce off of other people. And I never even thought about that as an issue.
Okay.
And I mean, it'll be sad to see her go. And it's definitely the right thing for her mental health.
Well, hold on. I got an idea. Where does she live?
Iowa.
Where?
I don't know off the top of my head.
You find the closest industrious. I've done this before. You pay the $250 a month and you give her a place to go. Meaning, I'm being serious. Like, we intentionally at BluShark didn't go officeless coming out of COVID, right? We wanted to. We didn't pay for it. It was awesome. There was no rent for quite a while. But having a clubhouse where people go to for meetings once or twice a week and then team meetings once a year was a huge deal. Do you fly? Has this person ever been flown into your office?
No, she's only been with us for 9 months. We haven't done a flying.
But I was just saying, we encourage people to come in, the domestic people to come in, not that some of the international don't, but come in for holiday parties, summer parties, whatever, find an excuse to have, because what you're saying is there's no connection. It's just a job.
Well, actually, she came in through an existing team member and actually trained at that woman's house because they both work remotely.
Understood. And I'm just saying, we had somebody she was this is before COVID, 10 years ago. Somebody was moving to New York to be with their ailing dad and had to help him out with his business for a few hours a day. Should I have to resign? I'm like, nope, don't accept it. We'll set you up remote. And I would say, you want to be social? I'm going to find you a social setting. You'll find plenty of people there. You can go there, have coffee breaks with them. But if you like this job and we're paying you a fair wage, let's make this work. And because that can be, you can buy the sociability.
Right.
Okay. Because you have to be careful what you ask.
We got to end this. We got to end this session here now, Seth, because I got to go and look and see if I can find a WeWork or Regis or someplace I can park her and give her work to do.
Look, it could be at somebody else's office. It could be, what town is it in? We're going to put this out to everyone. What town are we in?
I'll be honest, I don't know because I've really had limited interaction with her because my leadership team is doing
understood. And I spent time in Iowa as a baby lawyer for Interstate Power, running all over the state defending depositions. So, I got lawyer friends in Davenport and Dubuque. Nobody in Clinton, but there's a baseball team there I went to see. But we're going to find somebody for you.
All right. Well, thank you, Seth. Thank you, folks. If you do have the office space in Iowa, drop a link in the comments or a note in the comments and let me know. where it is, because maybe I'll park somebody with you and pay you some rent. But folks, that's going to do it for us this week on the Law Firm Blueprint. Let me say that again. Okay, folks, that's going to do it for us this week here in the Law Firm Blueprint. Of course, you can take us anywhere you want to go on the go with our podcast. You can find it wherever you get your podcast, and you can catch us live every Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific, live on LinkedIn or live in our Facebook group, The Law Firm Blueprint. That's going to do it for me. I'm Jay Ruane. He is Seth Price. Thank you all. Bye for now.